Hey everyone, this is Carl and this is AMBA 600 MBA Fundamentals, Stat 689 Excel and Statistics Tutoring Forum. And as we've talked about and discussed in a series of videos, in this one we're going to talk about data presentations, specifically pie charts, bar charts, histograms, just how it worked in Excel and kind of the nuances of it. Because these presentations, some of this, as we'll show in the example, requires a little bit of data manipulation. Sometimes you do have to prepare your data for a presentation. It's not as clean as raw data. You almost have to, in addition to synthesizing it, understanding it, and analyzing it, you also have to prepare it to show it to somebody who's maybe not that well versed in the data or the subject matter. So we'll go ahead and jump right back into it, in Excel. And as you can see here, we just have a little bit of a example. These are different codes I've used. You have a series of rows of data. We're going to start out with a histogram, which is like a frequency distribution. So we have a series of 8,400 values. Okay, and then what we're going to do, first I did the ran function to make sure that they're all locked in, pasting the values only to keep them there. So we have some values now, and we want to find out how many fall within these bins. How many are less than or equal to 50, between 50 and 100, and so on. So, in terms of this, remember it's the frequency function. I just want to give a review, particularly with the array function, as it relates to frequency, because it can be a little tricky. So we're doing the frequency. Our data array, this is our data array right here. It's 8,400 records, so 8,400. And then our bins, remember our bins are actually kind of the buckets. That's an easy way to remember it. So these are our bins. So we close it up, and we're there. We drag it here. As you can see, it's there. And you can see how this keeps. You see this issue here? Remember from the array function, this is not accurate because it's not moving as well. These cells aren't being locked in. So how do we do this? That's what the array function's for. So we highlight here, and then we come up here, and we make sure that all of this is highlighted, almost like we want to insert more data, or in the function. But instead, we do Control, Shift, and then Enter. And now we have our frequencies. What does this mean? That means that they're out of the 8,400 records, about 1,419 are 50 and less. 1,400 are in between 50 and 100, and so on. So now that we have that piece, I'm going to show it in two different ways. We'll go to our Insert tab, and we're going to do a column chart, bar chart essentially. So we have our bar right here. We want to right click, and we want to do Select Data. And now our data range, we're going to have it right here. This is our data range, 50, 100. And we can prepare it. Remember, we want to make sure, since this is a X and a Y per se, we want to make sure that we grab the right one. So series 1 gets us to where we want. So in addition, we can edit this and make it more clear in understanding it. So our series name is order codes, or order priority, just for namesake. So you see here, this is our histogram. See 1419? Just below that. So our highest month, our highest variable rather, is number 3, which is right here. You can number it 1, 2, 3. You can also do this where you can change the labels of here, because sometimes it is important to change the labels when you're talking about the options, because as you can tell, design, axes, horizontal, that so when you change it, like as an example, I'll come back to this. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to keep these bins. We want to label these bins. So what you do is you highlight the particular bin and select data. Select data, right click, select data. And on the right side, you'll notice there's an edit option. So for our first one, we know number 1 is 50. And so we'll add that in there. and so on. Then we'll do it again. It lets you highlight them. There we go. So now it's a little more clear to understand in preparing the data. Now the line chart is very similar to this. Specifically, if you want to go to just working from this chart itself, you can set it up. Oh, actually, pie chart. Because the categories are actually spread out. So this is what we can do with this one. We will insert in the same similar way the pie. You can use the same data, and using it from that side, it automatically populates. So now this is what, it's almost even distribution, as you can tell. The slices are pretty much there. And interesting with some of the preparation of the data is you're able to kind of customize your output, like in terms of putting these in the PowerPoint slides and whatnot. But it's pretty sufficient. And now we're going to go into a line chart. And what does a line chart do? A line chart, for the most part, kind of really wants to show trends. And this is kind of what I get at when I'm talking about, okay, what's the best way to visually show this data to people not well versed in the data or not well versed in the subject matter? Presentations versus analysis are two different things. Sometimes a great deal of the sophistication behind any analysis and statistical analysis working with data, there's very kind of simple presentations. Less is more in essence. So what we're going to do with this line chart is kind of analyze this trend of part-time wages going from 2008 to 2020. And obviously this is an estimate, kind of a forecast, if you will. So we'll do this. We'll do a line chart, insert line chart, and we'll do the data points. We want the data points in there just to show what's going on. So select data, right click, select data. Okay, so we have our data range, we already know. This is our X, this is our Y. It's very important to know that. So we'll highlight these two so that we keep the labels. And you just click and it'll show. Now remember, it's doing the same thing, so we want to get rid of year or wages. We're analyzing the trend in wages. We can adjust this sometimes when you highlight both cells. It kind of gives you this error, slightly different error, but you can tell which one we want. So we want to remove year because we're not graphing years. Sometimes Excel, depending on how you format the data and structure the data, it'll actually think that these are actually two different lines, but it's not. So remove, and now we have our trend in this category. Now remember, similarly, that this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we actually want the years, because this is our x-axis. So we go to edit. We want to do axis label range, 2008 to 2020 to kind of show a trend. And you'll see it's much more understandable that way. And it allows you to kind of customize the output and visually kind of get a better presentation. And up here in Excel, you have, depending on if you want PowerPoints, you can kind of spruce it up. You can add different trends to it. You can actually almost do a little bit of analysis too, in the sense of adding a trend line, error bars, a lot of kind of things that you'd want to do if the data that you're working with has margins of error, those kinds of things, confidence intervals, that we'll kind of maybe touch on in future videos. But just for the sake of simplicity, showing you kind of how quickly to present a line chart, trend line, as if it will, a pie chart, and kind of a histogram, kind of going back to this, how, in essence, for effective data presentations, there will be some manipulation required. Sometimes it can be in the form of actually creating a frequency table to analyze a longer list of data points. So we just hope this helps. Just let us know if you have any questions along the way. Thanks so much.